Yash Raj Films released its second OTT series on Netflix called Mandala Murders, and we have to talk about it. This ambitious genre-bending show, created and co-directed by Gopi Putran, mixes murder mystery with sci-fi and fantasy elements. Taking place in a fictional timeline, we were not expecting historical accuracy, but at least cultural authenticity. Many of us were excited after watching the promising trailer and a great first episode. Then why did Mandala Murders fail to live up to its potential? Today, that is exactly what we will look into. We would strongly recommend that you watch the show before this video, as we will break down the story and gain insight into what worked and what didn't, warranting spoilers. The story follows a series of ritualistic murders dictated by an ancient codified geometry figure called Mandala in a fictional city of Charandaspur, a city clearly based off of Varanasi. The cult behind these murders want to recreate a human figure through different parts of their victims so that their deity called Yast could inhabit it and come to life. There is another catch. The murdered should be the ones who have benefited with a vardhan or a wish from an energy machine called Urja Yantra. Okay, enough with the magical parts. Let's introduce you to our poster characters. Vikram Jaisingh, a police officer on suspension who has come to his hometown Charandaspur to lay low. Ananya Bhardwaj, a strong political leader surrounded by enemies ranging from other party leaders to her own husband. And Riya Thomas, a gritty, hard-working investigative officer who works day and night to solve cases. Vikram is haunted by the memories of his lost mother as soon as he steps into their old home. And we know there is a connection between this cult and his missing mother. Ananya and Vikram also share a painful connection. Ananya's sister Kavita, who is also Vikram's girlfriend, has been in a coma for a very long time. Riya, although being one of the best investigative minds, faces pressure to not work on field because she is haunted by her own guilt of letting a little girl die as she walked into a line of fire. As we will see in the video, the character dynamics are set up quite tightly and is a thing to admire about the show. This should be enough for us to get into the actual breakdown. Alright, before jumping into the breakdown, let me get something out of the way. It's not that the series is not enjoyable, but there is a trend with high concepts that we're seeing in Bollywood lately, even with a film like Bhool Chook Maaf. The filmmakers, or the showrunners in this instance, seem to be focused more towards appealing to Western sensibilities rather than creating a compelling plotline. Maybe that is why they had to constantly repeat the same lines in English after delivering them in Hindi.
प्राचीन तलवार,
an antique sword.
ये सारे मर्डर्स एक मंडला के हिसाब से हुए. There is a pattern to all these murders based on the symbols of the mandal. 22 साल पहले मेरी माँ उसी जंगल से लापता हो गई थी.
Your mother went missing 22 years ago, right?
Alright, jokes aside, let us first look at the best episode in the first season by a margin, the pilot, and dissect the good parts and the potentials of the show. As far as the appeal to Western sensibilities go, the show succeeds in all areas, even at places it shouldn't. The cinematography, the lighting, the colors are all up to the mark. But it is a problem when your costume design is more Indian than your actual story. In the first 5 minutes, you get an idea about how this is going to turn out. The writers would have done way better with some research on the core of their show, which is Indian magic and wizardry. Rehashing the same law of thermodynamics about energy never being created or destroyed, only transformed in Shuddh Hindi is lazy writing. Just because a woman quoting it is wearing a sari does not make it organic. Also, we see a witch hunt. Not a metaphoric one, but a literal witch hunt. I'm sorry, I didn't know the series was set in 15th century Europe. But hey, all sins are forgiven as we come back to the original timeline. The film language, from writing to the camera, work perfectly to give us the inner states of the three main characters. We're engaged in their world. The scene in which we see the photographer's head floating on the Ganga sets up the genre and the expectations. Vikram's dynamic with his French/police officer Pramod Sahni is also quite welcoming.
इसी बहाने फैंटम का मंडरकवा वापस आ गया.
मंडरकवा नहीं, मंडरकवा
द मैजिशियन. साला बचपन का जोड़ी फिर से जुड़ गया.
Sahni already is a likable character, so the scene where they promise each other to find Vikram's mother is quite powerful and sets up the central conflict quite well. At the end of the first episode, things have gotten interesting. The storylines, the characters, their personalities, and dynamics with each other set up a gripping story in the coming episodes. So, where exactly did the filmmakers slip? Let's talk about how the tight grip is slowly loosened by the filmmakers because they were too distracted by the whole spectacle of it. Episode 2, which was 11 minutes shorter than the first, already seemed quite a drag. The episode dives into other storylines of the city. Look, we all know that in an episodic format, there are bound to be multiple plot lines. We would like to stay with the characters more, get to know them a little better, but not at the cost of the main plot line. Here, we are separated from Vikram, the first character we were introduced to. The arc didn't have much to tell us about Ananya as well, even though she was one of the central characters. Riya, who is literally the main character of this episode, also goes passive midway through as she is incapacitated and put in the back of a trunk. The episode was made only for us to know about the Urja Yantra and other woo stuff surrounding it.
कामा आप और आपका ये जंतर मंतर
I get that the filmmakers are trying to set up the rules that govern the story world, but you know what the core of the issue here is? That they've forgotten the central conflict of the film. Yes, the Indo-Western, unoriginal, magical stuff is quite interesting. Yes, the machine that cuts your thumb off in exchange for a wish is quite horrifying. Yes, the ghost/ninja assassin is cool if the audience were 10 years old, but we want to know about the search for Vikram's mother. Funny how the diagnosis of the first 2 episodes of the series can tell us everything right and wrong that the filmmakers will do. So now that we've already lost track of the central conflict, the next episode focuses more on the concept. Episode 3 is a very well structured short story on its own. Kaivalya Shastri, the new character, is interesting and somewhat eccentric. By the time he is done, he converts an atheistic Riya into somewhat of a believer. The whole story had us thinking that it would be Kaivalya who is the next victim. And while he did die in the end, the real sacrifice was Kalindi. In the first watch, you will let this go. Because even though the twist is not very satisfying, since they didn't set us up for it, they still have time to right their wrongs. But this was the first symptom of another major issue that traces back again to giving the concept more priority than the storyline. When you are so flustered by one thing, you naturally take your eyes off the other. In the world of stories, this could mean not paying attention to a few essential rules. In Mandala Murders, this takes the shape of not making sure if the plot twists and surprises are creating the desired effect. The prime example of this is how episodes 4 and 5 deal with the deaths of very important characters.
मोनालिसा जी इतनी रात में थाई मसाज दे रही है क्या?
अरे हेलो मोनालिसा जी, हमें भी दीजिए थाई मसाज.
First, Saini's death. Did they really think they could just spring an emotional moment onto us out of nowhere? We loved him in the first episode, but we were kept so distant from him after that his death no longer affects us. And don't get me started on its build-up. After the sword versus gunfight, which the filmmakers needed for a cool trailer moment, Riya finds him already dead. At least let him sacrifice himself like a hero. But once wasn't enough. They had to make the same mistake back to back, and the trigger-happy writers went ahead and killed Kavita without setting that up as well. They just allowed what could have been the most powerful plot twist in the show to dull out. They could have made it so much more effective by giving Vikram a ray of hope about Kavita waking up from her coma. But nah, it was almost as if he had given up, and her death came out of the blue as well, without any real setup. Also, while Kavita's face was being carved out by the ghost/ninja, Vikram was making out with her sister Ananya. Where is the emphasis on that? Like I said, the filmmaker's vision was too crowded with other things. So while the whole Vyankat subplot to move Vikram's story forward and Riya's working over her past unresolved traumas is a great addition, the original central conflict, which was looking for Vikram's lost mother, has just become a passing remark. Mandala Murders decides all of a sudden that there is much of the backstory they need to tell us, and so they pull off a Stranger Things, dedicating a whole episode to the backstory. But the child in me was hoping for everything to come together at the climax. I guess that was just me being naive. The show hadn't given us anything to look forward to anymore. The search for Vikram's mother had become irrelevant, and they should have given us a curiosity or at least a hint about the existence of a cult leader if they wanted us to look forward to her reveal. As the final episode rolls around, it is time to go bollocks. I cringed so hard when it was revealed that Ananya was behind it all. Like Riya, Ananya too has ancestral ties. Honestly, her being the grandchild of the original cult leader is straight out of an Ekta Kapoor serial.
उठो रिया यश को बनने से रोकना है रिया रिया उठो
The stupidest twist came when Ananya was revealed to be the leader. Okay, I get it. It's not like I was ever supposed to see it coming anyways, right? Sure. Looking back at the episodes, you will see that they have done a good job at making sure there are no plot holes. But it is just so unsatisfying because neither is this something her character would do, nor is there any setup done for this. You know what happens when you make the characters do something only because the plot demands it? You do not get a aha moment like you expected, but a heh that hurts your story. It is unbelievable and not in a good way. Father Aristotle once said, a probable impossibility is preferred to an improbable possibility. Whatever that means. Also, let's talk about how unsatisfactory the closure to the central conflict was as well. Vikram finally gets to meet his now deranged mother through no merit of his own, but is passively taken to her. You see, the promise that the two friends, Vikram and Saini, made to each other was also the filmmakers' promise to the audience of a lovely reunion. Sure, the filmmakers don't have to give us a happy ending, but hey, we're not even heartbroken really. Also, Vikram survives due to a Vardhan his mother had asked for 20 years ago. But wasn't it implied that him surviving the gunshot was that wish coming true? All in all, the final episode has a running theme of cheap surprises. But since most of our questions, satisfyingly or not, are answered by the end, I for one do not really get the need for season 2. But I hope they can learn from the first season and do better. Because the substance was present, if only they weren't too distracted. But who am I kidding? Anyway, tell us what you thought of the Mandala murders and are you excited to watch season 2? Like, share and subscribe and we will see you in the next one.